Welcome to the Worth Listening podcast, where we focus on having positive and productive conversations around money. I'm your host, Lauryn, a four-time Olympian and certified financial planner. On this show, my guests share their money stories. Everyone has a unique story and experiences both wins and losses when it comes to money. My intent is to give listeners something they can relate to, something that builds their courage to be open and take control of their own money story. When I'm not creating a great show for my listeners, I'm running my company, Worth Winning, where I help individuals and families organize their finances. Check us out at worth-winning.com. All right, now on with the show.
Our June theme is men and money, and I've got two more guests for you on that topic. If you haven't listened to the first two episodes, go ahead and check them out. But in light of the events of the last several weeks, we are interrupting regularly scheduled programming to have a short but hopefully meaningful discussion on race and racism. So there has been a lot going on in America, and really in the world for that matter in 2020. People are using words like unprecedented, unheard of, bizarre. Of course, pandemic is one that we keep hearing quite a bit. And while COVID-19 was unexpected and the timing of events such as George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery couldn't have been predicted per se, many of the problems that we are facing aren't new. These are problems that our country and our world has faced for generations. So what's new? I would say technology, and mainly in the form of social media. It's now a lot easier to put momentum behind a narrative to shine a light on particular issues and cause big players to act accordingly. This intangible social media machine is making people take action. So my perception of what I've seen on social media lately is white people and big organizations are being challenged to join the conversation or be canceled. Silence is now unacceptable. And yes, some companies and people are making announcements, they're writing emails, they're paying lip service because they feel like they have to. However, I'm not sure that action by force is going to yield the results that people are really looking for. Because now we have to wonder who's doing it for appearance versus who's doing it because they mean it. And I know many are interested in joining the conversation, but truly don't know what to say. They feel like time is of the essence, but would just like a moment to sort through what they can do authentically. Tension is high, and being hasty runs the risk of saying it wrong and becoming instantly canceled. Accidentally say the wrong thing, and you might be forced to delete your Twitter account and have a mass exodus of a previously happy customer base. You meant one thing, but the text was interpreted differently, and all hell broke loose. So it makes sense to me if you're white and you want to sit back to try to figure out the right way to speak out without risking the backlash from doing it the wrong way. And to those of you speaking up, I commend you. I am not saying be silent. I'm saying if you are ready and willing and able to speak up, by all means do. I have seen you there. I have seen many of you trying to support the cause. But also remember that we stand with Black people is a very broad statement. For real change to happen, we need this to be more than a social media movement. Black Lives Matters banners on your profile pictures are nice, but what can be done to move the needle forward? Don't be afraid to say what you plan to do to help make change happen. And don't be afraid to say nothing if you don't know what you can authentically say and follow through on just yet. Also, I want to tell everyone that it's okay to be behind the scenes making a difference. You don't have to show and tell everything that you're doing. Now, I do believe that we all need to find a way to be involved. So what can you do if you're not sure how to help put an end to this racial divide? Well, never fear. I have a few ideas. First, educate yourself. You don't know what you don't know. If you're not a minority, you can't assume to know what a person of color is going through right now. There are tons of difference that we all have as people culturally and tons of different experiences. So educate yourself on those differences. If you work with a person of color, don't make the assumption that they're okay. Don't assume that because they're at work or online that the struggle is not real right now. They are likely exhausted, scared, or even possibly just mentally checked out. They may feel like work doesn't even really matter right now. So what can you do? Try asking, how are you? But then stop and wait for the answer. It is so simple, but it can go such a long way. What else? Push your employer to invest in diversity and inclusion training. They can help you have the tools that you need to have the right conversations with people of color. And if you're in a hiring position at a company, do the hard work of creating a diverse candidate pool, knowing that there are not as many minorities. Yes, it is hard work, but you can do it. Also, don't just hire to meet a quota, but hire to retain. Invest in gaining cultural competency to create an environment where minorities feel safe, where they can grow, and they feel like someone is investing in them. People of color might need the investment of time to be more polished on the job. Why not hire on character and capability, and then invest the time necessary to teach them technical skills and improve competency? I was an athlete before I became a financial planner. I had very little skill or experience on my resume, but I'm smart and I'm coachable. Some people might not come from a background where basic skills were taught. I don't come from a background where basic skills were taught. And that's not about my upbringing. That's about my experiences as an athlete. We all come from different walks of life. That doesn't mean that you can't learn or that they don't want to learn. The investment of time can be more valuable than any monetary investment. Along those same lines is mentorship. There's definitely a gap in the resources that are available, which will affect a person of color's ability to have success. If you're a successful business owner, why not try to find a person of color with a business and show them how you've succeeded? This is an important resource for a business to thrive. I can say that for sure as someone who has started a business from scratch, like I said, with very little business knowledge initially. What else can you do? Well, look at where you spend your money. Are you supporting Black-owned businesses? If not, why? You can help create change by paying attention to where you're spending money. And yes, ideally, we wouldn't need to find a Black restaurant to go support. It would just be a great restaurant and no one has to know what color the owner is. In the short term, that's not our reality. There needs to be additional support to help Black-owned businesses thrive. I look forward to the day when it's not a Black-owned business and we are all able to succeed on the same level. Until then, You've got to purposely look for Black businesses. And yes, it might be hard because you can't just Google Black-owned businesses and a really cute list shows up. I don't know why, but that's not a thing. Or Black-owned hair salons or Black-owned, you name it, financial planning firms. It might be hard, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible to be intentional. Also, be courageous. Step outside of your box. Do your white children play with Black children? If not, why not? If they don't live in your neighborhood, then expand your environment. Our bubble is not representative of the world. This is also why I feel travel is so important. We've got to be able to get out and realize that there are perspectives and environments other than our own. And that's for everyone. I'm not picking on any one particular group when I say we've all got to get outside of our box. And so now I do need to talk to the Browns a little. We have to make sure that we're taking responsibility for ourselves and our futures. While all of the resources available to minority communities may not be the same, we first have to start by using what is available. We can definitely do a better job of making the most out of the resources that are around us and educating ourselves with what we have. It is time to start asking questions to learn what we don't know. It's time to shed the shame that comes with ignorance. You don't have to wait for someone to voluntarily share information with you. The you don't know what you don't know is fixed by learning. So let's continue to educate ourselves on topics such as finances. And it's not just about having organized finances. That is a very, very important part of the process. But looking at where you spend money on yourself or your business is an important part of this as well. Are your purchases helping you grow? I need you to make an investment in you. Investing in therapy if you need it. There's lots of books out there, but no book is truly going to explain what is so deeply rooted in a community and a culture that is prohibiting us from moving forward. This is some of that stuff that we've got to deal with person by person, case by case. And I've seen a lot of people reaching out on social media to find a therapist. So people do need therapy right now, and you need to assess if you need therapy right now. And if your insurance doesn't cover it, what can you cut out of your budget to get it in if that's going to be what's necessary for you to shed the we can't succeed mindset? We're in the midst of experiencing trauma right now. What has happened over the last few weeks is traumatic, and you might need to talk to somebody just specifically about that in addition to all the other things that you've encountered during your lifetime. When COVID-19 began, minority communities were hit harder because of lack of healthcare, and there are higher percentages of minorities that are experiencing unemployment right now. We know that traumatic things are happening above and beyond what's happening from a racial standpoint. There's a lot being stirred up in everybody's personal pot right now. The effect is deep and the need is great. Please do not be afraid to get help. If you're a therapist listening, this is a great way to get involved. Maybe some pro bono or discounted services, whatever you feel like is appropriate. All right, let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk to the Black business owners. Let's make sure that we are distributing quality products. I'm always grateful when someone gives me feedback because I know that whatever I put out needs to look twice as good in order to have a similar credibility to others. I also want to remind you that there's a difference between a hustle and a business. So you got to decide which one you are. And if you truly want to be a small business, this is not a side hustle, take a look at your marketing. Look for the areas that you need to improve. Sometimes I'm trying to support a Black business and it's not clear how to purchase the product or what exactly is being sold. This is another area where we need to invest in the resources to close the gaps on the areas that we don't know. And if you need help, ask for it. If you don't know anyone to ask for help, that's an indication that we've got to expand our circles. We've got to get outside of our box. We can't just look to the few people in our community. This discussion of diversity means maybe going out and finding some white people to help you. If you're not traditionally used to interacting, go out and find whoever has the proper resources. There are nonprofit organizations and tons of free resources if you're balling on a budget. But we've got to do better. All right. And last but not least, a word to financial planners. I got to speak to my community because I know many of you are listening as well. If you're not getting Black prospective clients reaching out, how can you be more intentional about trying? And that's whether you're Black or white. I did some numbers on my actual business and I'm actually more majority than I am minority right now. And even amongst my minorities, it is not all Black people. It is people from various ethnicities. So I am proud because my business is diverse, but I am not closing Black clients in the way that I'd like to be. And so when we're thinking about this, are you marketing to minorities? It might not be as easy to find stock photos of diverse backgrounds, but spend some time on things like that. You may have to do more than a quick Google search. It may take a little bit of time, quite a few tries, but there are websites out there and there are people providing services that you can support. Let's think outside the box. Can you go to an inner city school to educate students about financial planning as a profession or do a free webinar on finances geared toward the Black community? And as we think about industry changes, we don't need to recreate the wheel. Think about the people who have been yelling this from the rooftop the whole time. Diversity is not a new topic in this industry. Yes, now the conversation is being had in a much louder tone, but this is not something new. And we need to look to the resources that are already in place. That starts by doing some research on those who are already immersed in this work. For instance, Pam Capalit of Brunch and Budget has dedicated her whole self, her whole everything to this work. The majority of her speeches and the conferences and her posts are all about this work and have been well before this conversation got loud and proud in 2020. Rianka Dorsonville is another person doing work in this area. Her podcast, 2050 Trailblazers, is a great resource to bring people together and to encourage them to look at the conversation from all different sides. If you're in the financial industry, you're definitely going to want to check that out. We do not have to keep starting from scratch, and let's not keep starting from scratch. We've got a lot of work to do to educate Black households about being better with money. And the struggle I've come across as a financial planner is that those that are lower income can't afford my services. But I don't have unlimited time for pro bono services and I don't have anywhere to send them. There are multiple gig economy businesses with people offering financial coaching, but they have no credentials. So I struggle because I can't in good conscience send a person to someone with no credentials, but this leaves them stuck between a rock and a hard place. And we've got to stop using the poverty line as a litmus test. Too many organizations are using that as the qualifier for whether someone is going to get access to the various resources. We know that depending on where you live and the cost of living, the poverty line is not applicable And there are people that are just slightly over the poverty line that are in dire need of help and resources to improve their situation. So we've got to start thinking about what we can do to make sure that more Black households are being better educated about finances. Pro bono services is an option, but like I said, I know that everyone's time is not unlimited. My Fix has been creating a course where people can get access to the information and still access to customized advice for a very low cost. Let's continue to think outside the box for what we can do. Okay, I think I have subjected you all to enough of my racial rambling, so let's wrap this up. We are in a difficult time right now. The obstacles and challenges minorities are facing are real. It might be easy to judge what you think you see people doing, but looks can be deceiving. We have to go beyond surface level assumptions. And to be clear, I've had to evolve in all these areas myself. I've looked over someone's information prior to a call, seen a big income, high credit card debt, big car payments, and made some assumptions. It is easy to judge the way people are handling their money based on surface level information. But then you learn that they have 2 special needs children at home, or that their credit is bad because a family member stole their identities years ago and racked up a bunch of debt, or they're at first generation graduation and everyone is counting on them to carry the load of the entire family. And suddenly the situation doesn't seem so black or white. Pun intended. Let's consider some of these stories. I've got tons of them. A Black man that put himself at risk to go get white children out of jail that protested and bring them home in the middle of the night. The stress that it caused him to put himself at risk when he's a new husband and a new father. There's more to the story than what people saw that day. My friends are parents, and they're parents of little Black boys, and they're trying to get together with other parents to have productive conversations about how to explain to their 12-year-olds that this is important and how to best protect themselves. They're trying to organize a way to have effective conversation without scaring them, but also making them aware that not everyone is going to treat them right, and sometimes it's going to be because of the color of their skin. My point in sharing these things is that you don't know anyone's full story. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You will not know what you do not ask. So please be mindful of the idea that there is more to a person than simply the things that you know or that you might observe. It is easy to judge a book by its cover. It is much harder to challenge yourself to look beyond that cover and read the pages. Remember that for each and every one of us, all of this is real and everyone is right. We all have our own perspectives and we are all living in our own reality. So let's make sure that this is more than a hashtag or a t-shirt. We cannot let it stop at that. Real change comes from action. We have to be intentional to create space to discuss current feelings and possible solutions. So keep asking, what action can I take to create meaningful change? I've included tons of links to what I hope will be helpful resources on the subject. And a few months ago, I ran a series on the racial wealth divide. So if you're looking for something easy and you're enjoying the podcast, you can just scroll up or scroll back a couple episodes and you can hear more on that particular topic from 4 different perspectives. I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for listening. Let's continue to make meaningful change. Until next week.